Take from the rich, give to everyone else. President Obama will unveil a Robin Hood-style tax plan in his State of the Union address tomorrow. The proposal calls for a $320 billion tax increase on the wealthy. Let's bring in today's panel. Matt Welch is editor-in-chief of Reason Magazine. He's also a Fox Business contributor, along with Carrie Sheffield from Forbes and Rob Basso from the president of Advantage Payroll Services. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Matt, what do you think?
I mean, it just shows the real exhaustion of Obamanomics in year 7, that we're just going to, let's just tax the rich and give people free stuff, in quotation marks, free. The thing that really strikes me, beside the fact that it's not going to pass, and almost none of this stuff is going to go anywhere, is that he actually thinks that we need to make community college free by taxing our college savings plans, which is just going to go nowhere for those of us who are not, you know, in the 1% and who take our college savings plans pretty seriously.
No, I mean, it is amazing because it's when you drill down on the details, the few of the details that are, you know, available at this point, that is one that really makes you scratch your head. You're going to go ahead and tax savings for college to pay for other free college. I mean,
shell game at its finest.
Yeah.
But Matt's absolutely right. This is dead in the water, dead on arrival. In many ways, I think he's setting the stage for 2016 to say this is our talking point. This is what the campaign will be about. There is one point that I do want to point out. They want to increase, they want to double the earned income tax credit for childless workers. That's something that Paul Ryan has actually, and a lot of Republicans are very for. And I think it actually makes sense. That's one, I think, bright spot in all this.
Yeah. What does it all mean for the economy, for the markets? I mean, so what? The rich, tax them. Who cares?
Taking from successful people and giving it to those that are struggling has never been a recipe for success. It hasn't been a recipe for success in Europe. It's not going to be a recipe for success here in America. $10 billion over 10 years. Both of you are right on the money. This is a non-starter. It's not going to happen. It won't matter. We get a Republican-controlled Congress.
Okay. The threat of homegrown terror. Key U.S. senators saying that Americans have to assume there are some sleeper cells within the U.S.
When you're seeing what's happening in Europe, and you're seeing how widespread that is, you know, from France to Belgium to Germany, I think you have to assume that that is certainly a risk that we do have to consider.
Carrie, this was the theme all over Sunday television. It seems like it is, you know, the prevailing thought out there. Worrisome.
Right, and yet we had a president who said it was the JV team that was going across, you know, ISIS. And we do see, you know, in Syria, ISIS is commanding and it's expanding its control despite our air attacks over there. So, I mean, it's depressing. And we do have to assume that terror cells are operating here in the U.S.
Yeah. Matt.
You know, one thing that we have an advantage of over Europe is that we actually assimilate immigrants a lot better, and we also allow for free speech. France has cracked down on free speech in the wake of the Charlie Hebdo massacre. Free speech is how people smoke themselves out. They reveal themselves to be talking about these various types of things. You know, we are going to be attacked at some point, probably. There's going to be sleeper cells, probably. But I have more faith in the way that we approach this than Europe does.
And apparently we have a very short memory. In 2010, there was almost a bomb detonated 3 blocks from here in Times Square, and I can't imagine it's not going to happen again. I mean, this is something that the American public needs to take seriously, and Obama needs to get tough on. He is weak on terrorism. He refuses to call it Islamic terrorism, and it's abominable.
Okay. Wage rage in New York State of mind. Governor Andrew Cuomo calling for a minimum wage hike and proposing 2 different rates. The plan sets hourly wages at $10.50 in New York, $11.50 for New York City. He says it is too easy to say, just get a job. Well, he's making it harder to get a job. If you raise the minimum wage, then they're going to spend less on labor.
And you know, a fun fact, New York City has a higher unemployment rate than the rest of New York State. So it's this weird blue state phenomenon that we're seeing in Seattle and everywhere else, that the people are hiking up sales taxes a lot of times through the ballot box. And we'll have a great experiment over the next, 5-10 years as you see that happen in New York and California, and you see it not happen in successful Southwestern states.
Supporters say you can't. And I mean, this point always kills me. You can't raise a family on $10 or $11.50. You can't raise a family on $12 an hour or $13 an hour. Like,
well,
you need a real job.
It's not families that are earning the minimum wage. And listen, I worked in fast food. I'm not condemning people who are in this, but people who work in minimum wage jobs tend to be high schoolers, or they tend to stay in those jobs, or students, and they tend to not stay in these jobs very long. They get quickly promoted. But this would essentially shave off that ladder. The triangulation is interesting here, though, because it's Cuomo asserting against de Blasio, because de Blasio was trying to raise the rate for New York by himself. and Cuomo smacks him down. I think it's very interesting to watch.
The point you were making, 67% of people that are earning the minimum wage do something else full time. This is what they're doing on the side. They're students.
Minimum wage is supposed to be a starting wage. It's not supposed to be necessarily a living wage. They're supposed to move up and progress within an organization. Raising the minimum wage like Seattle and like Chicago did is not going to help New York City. We have to weigh it against the challenges that small and medium-sized business owners are going to have. And if their costs rise, so will cost to all the consumers in the market.
It also moves the conversation to the wrong problem. I mean, if you have a class that's falling behind, we shouldn't be talking about giving them $1 or $2 more at McDonald's. We should be talking about why have the good middle-class jobs disappeared? And also, what's happened there?
And also, entrepreneurs are the engine of the economy, small business. They're the ones who are going to be hit by this stuff first.
Right. And the Tax Foundation put New York number 49 out of 50. New Jersey is the last in terms of the tax environment.
Not a great place to start a business.
Apple might be running out of style. Apple insiders reporting that the tech giant is getting ready to introduce a stylus. A stylus. I mean, didn't Steve Jobs say in 2007, he says, who wants a stylus? Nobody wants a stylus. Apparently now Apple wants a stylus.
Try to use a stylus on that computer right there. Yes. Would you even think about doing it? No, there's something really good about our fingertips. It kind of, you know, you have kids, I have a daughter too. She understands how to do this. This makes sense to her. Like getting something like this, that doesn't make any sense.
Although I do say the reason why I don't have an iPhone is because I want the keypad in order to type messages. So the stylus doesn't solve that. It's kind of tempting.
And your finger can be pretty fat. Sometimes my finger is pretty fat for what I'm trying to touch.
You have fat fingers? You're a skinny little person. What are you talking about? Do you believe she has fat fingers? There's no way.
But Samsung already has a stylus in their Note product. So I think it's interesting that we're talking about something that Apple is doing and making it sound like it's a new thing. It's not really a new thing. This is already out in the
I think our point is that it's a very old thing and it's very un-Apple. Steve Jobs said 2 years after the iPad came out, if you see a stylus, it means they blew it.
I don't agree. I don't agree with that
to channel Barack Obama, the 1990s called, they want their stylus back.
They want their stylus back. There you go. Amazon rolling out the red carpet following big wins at this year's Golden Globes. The company announcing plans to produce and acquire original movies for theatrical release. The studio expects the budget for those films to be between $5 and $25 million. So small budget, but still very interesting. And they're talking about releasing them in the theaters, as I read it, not necessarily to do big blockbuster things, but to then release them online in Amazon Prime, 4 weeks later. So it's like an ad putting in the theater.
I think this is great. I think, it's building on their success that they're having with their recent television programming. It's going to be great for Amazon. It creates more competition in Hollywood. Doesn't Hollywood need more competition? I mean, we want better movies. We want better products. And Amazon, why not them? Why not them or Google or somebody else?
Jeff Bezos really has no fear. I mean, he's always the guy to go in and turn an industry upside down. I remember interviewing him years ago, and he said, and this will date how many years ago it was, and he said, we're going to all be reading books off a tablet. You're not going to carry a book around anymore. And I laughed and I laughed. And now, because I was like, there's a million problems with that. Well, they've overcome all the problems with that. Now I have an iPad. I don't use his device, so there is problems in it. But he is an innovator that sees the future. What do you think, Matt?
And they are the ultimate long-tail company in some ways, right? They make a lot of money selling way back catalog stuff that no one really cares about or thinks about too much. $5 to $25 million is actually a great sweet spot for independent film, interesting, like documentary film. That's where they're going to make it, not doing huge prestige $100 million plays.
All right. So if you've got a case of the Mondays today, you are not alone. Today is Blue Monday, a.k.a. the saddest day of the year. Now, I thought it might be the day when most people call in sick because that's coming up. It's not, although this is a very popular one. February 2nd is the day that the most people call in sick. It's the first it's the first Monday in February. It is also the day after the Super Bowl. I noticed this year. So if you're thinking about calling in sick on February 2nd, don't do it because it's going to be really obvious. And if you're really sick, you're better off coming in and vomiting on someone and then going home. Right? Isn't that what you would do, Matt? Just come in and barf?
I'm a little bit sick now. I think I'm going to cough in your direction. No, one thing that people don't mention is how illness plays a factor in January.
Come on.
For those of us from Southern California, winters are really terrible. But the other thing that they don't mention is tax preparation. We're starting to deal with our taxes right now. That bums me out. When it's such a huge. My wife she has to use one of those healthy lights in her face to do her taxes.
They say it's weather, debt, time since Christmas, and time since failing your New Year's resolution. He thinks it's tax preparation. I love it.
It was a marketing campaign by an airline to get people to go on vacation. I love Blue. This is why
I think it's seasonal effectiveness disorder. I think we all have it.
All right. Thanks, guys.